In 1325, Isabella's brother, King Charles IV, would seize Edward's assets in France. The seizure of Edward's lands followed his refusal, as Duke of Aquitaine, to pay homage to the French king, Charles IV. Edward would refuse to travel either through fear of assassination or being deposed whilst out of the country. Pope John XXII would suggest that Isabella should travel to Paris as an ambassador in the attempt to resolve the situation. Isabella would reach Paris in March of 1325 with her eldest son, Prince Edward, who would pay homage to his uncle on his father's behalf. After 6 months, Isabella had still not returned to England, leading to Edward II into requesting that his wife returned home. Isabella refused, believing that the Despencer family would have her killed as soon as she returned. Charles IV also retorted that as Isabella was her sister, he was happy for her to stay under the protection of the French court. Isabella would start to wear the traditional clothing for a widow from this point, claiming that the Despencer family had killed her marriage to her husband. She would also refuse to meet with any emissaries that were sent by Edward II to meet her. At this point she would steadily build up her own English court in France, including powerful English barons living in exile. Amongst these barons would be Roger Mortimer, 1st Earl of March, who was rumoured at court to be Isabella's lover. Roger Mortimer had escaped from the imprisonment in the Tower of London following his capture in the Despencer Wars. Isabella was introduced to Mortimer by her cousin, Joan of Hainault, who would go on to be the in-law of Isabella, when her daughter, Philippa, would marry Isabella's son, Edward. It would be a huge gamble for Isabella and Mortimer to be lovers, especially as Isabella was technically still married to Edward, and with the recollection of Isabella's sister-in-law's death and captivity for adultery some years earlier. Isabella would leave France for Hainault in northern France, with Mortimer and her son in the summer of 1326. There Isabella would meet with William I, Count of Hainault, for the betrothal of her son to the Count's daughter Philippa. Isabella would use the Count's dowry and a loan secured from her brother to raise a mercenary army including Hainault soldiers. On the 22nd September 1326, Isabella and Mortimer would set sail with their army and boards provided by the Count of Hainault. Their plans would be executed in secrecy, as an English emissary at the Hainault court would be detained by the Count to prevent news reaching Edward. After landing at Orwell in England on the 24th September 1326, Isabella, dressed as a widow, would together with Mortimer lead her small force through England heading toward London. En route their army would grow bigger, as levies sent to intercept them would switch sides. Also forces loyal to Thomas Earl of Norfolk would join Isabella's army. As word spread around the country of Isabella's forcing landing in England, Henry of Lancaster, brother of Thomas of Lancaster executed by the king, would mobilize his forces to move south to join with Isabella. Before Edward and the Despencer could mobilize any resistance on the 27th of September, the capital had become too volatile, forcing Edward to escape to the city. Isabella and Mortimer would arrive on the 2nd October, where his forces would join up with the army of Henry of Lancaster. By this time Edward had fled to westwards for sanctuary and Isabella had created an effective opposition to the king's rule. Isabella's forces would reach London on the 7th October 1326. Edward's power had already collapsed in the capital, allowing Isabella to fill the power vacuum. Edward had reached Gloucester by the 9th October 1326. Isabella would pursue Edward in the attempt to cut him off by she would arrive in Gloucester 1 week after Edward, who had already crossed into Wales. Pausing in her quest to capture her husband, Isabella would lay siege to the city of Bristol between the 18th and 26th of October 1326. Bristol at this time was the base for the Despencer family. Isabella would capture Bristol and be reunited with her daughters, Eleanor and Joan. She would also capture Hugh Despencer the elder at Bristol. In the meantime, Edward and Hugh Despenser the Younger were attempting to evade Isabella by sailing to the island of Lundy in the Bristol Channel. The attempt of escape would be in vain as bad weather would force them back to Wales. By this time Isabella operations would be controlled from Wales, where she tasked Henry of Lancaster to find and capture Edward and Despenser the Younger. It would take Henry of Lancaster 2 weeks to find Edward. Edward and Hugh Despenser the Younger would be captured on 16 November 1326 near the Llantrisant on the island of Anglesey in northwest Wales.